NTC Global Trading Fund. On the surface, they specialized in cryptocurrency trading, playing the role of a middleman. You hand over your cash and they buy the crypto for you. One of the masterminds and the founders, Edwin Thabo Letopa, together with his business partner Marius Venter, claimed to have built a platform or a trading robot that could buy and sell cryptocurrency automatically. All you had to do was sit back and wait for the profits. And their big pitch? Arbitrage. Buying crypto cheap in one place and selling it at a higher price somewhere else. The margins were small, but repeated thousands of times, those tiny profits could snowball into serious money. At least that's what they promised. Now they lured in customers with the golden words, guaranteed returns. And it worked. Money poured in, not from poor and the desperate, but from people who could afford to gamble big, hoping to strike it rich. Now customers came from all over, even as far as Swaziland, throwing in millions. And in the end, NTC collected just under R500 million. But then there were whispers. There were suspicions that NTC wasn't really trading at all. That behind the glossy promises, this was nothing more than a Ponzi scheme. Now a Ponzi scheme game is simple. New investors' money is used to pay old investors, creating the illusion of profits. But the payouts are only a fraction of what people had put in. Now the founders, they pocket the rest. But all Ponzi schemes are a ticking time bomb. As long as new investors keep coming in, the machine runs smoothly. But the moment fresh money stops flowing, the entire empire will collapse, taking hundreds of millions and the dreams of those who believed in it down with it. The real trouble began when someone anonymously tipped off the Reserve Bank about a possible cryptocurrency Ponzi scheme at NTC Global Trade Fund. Now another concern was that millions of rands were being moved across the borders through digital platforms outside proper financial controls. That's when the NPA was called in to investigate. Almost immediately, NTC's accounts were frozen by FNB, acting on the NPA's orders. Now the goal was clear: lock down the money, push for liquidation or insolvency, and conduct a criminal investigation. For NTC, this was a nightmare scenario, losing their company, their assets, and possibly facing charges. With the funds frozen, investors stopped receiving their promised payouts. Now panic set in, and a group of investors demanded their money back. But NTC couldn't pay them. The banks had the cash on ice. Now suspicion turned into anger, and soon those same investors or same customers went to court, demanding liquidation so they could recover their money. But liquidation could mean the end of NTC. Now desperate, the company turned to Bouwer van Niekerk, hoping he could pull them back from the brink, unfreeze the funds and stop the business from being declared insolvent. Now through Bouwer's assistance and advice, eventually the court ordered NTC into business rescue instead of outright liquidation. Now business rescue is a legal process meant to give a struggling company one last chance. Now a court-appointed business rescue practitioner steps in, holds the creditor's claims, and tries to craft a plan to save the business. Now if the plan works, the company survives. If not, it's wound up and dissolved. But there was a catch. Once in business rescue, NTC was no longer in control. An outsider, which is Bouwer in this situation, now had full access to the company's affairs. If any fraud or illegal dealings were buried inside, the practitioner would uncover them. And if that happens, those behind NTC could face serious criminal charges. Now the company's directors were Edwin Thabo Letopa, Marius Venter, and Sakile Matsimela. But according to media reports, it was Letopa who really ran the show, or who was in charge of day-to-day operations of the firm. Now he was the one who approached Bouwer van Niekerk for help. Bouwer managed to stop the liquidation after the NPA failed to prove that NTC was a scam. Now as a result, FNB was ordered to unfreeze the company's funds. But there was a problem. Even though the courts cleared NTC, FNB wanted nothing more to do with them and dropped them as clients. Now NTC was forced to find another bank. But once the money was back under NTC's control, things turned sour between Lled and Bouwer, and the reason was the business rescue process. Now NTC didn't want to remain in the process anymore. Now being in business rescue cost them 4 million rands every month, and most of it going to Bouwer's fees. Now with the NPA unable to prove fraud, NTC wanted to walk away from Bouwer and the business rescue process, continue trading freely, convinced they were in the clear. But leaving the business rescue process isn't as simple as dropping the lawyers who got you in there. It's another legal battle. And also Bouwer wasn't willing to let go. He insisted the business rescue process continue as agreed, and the court backed him. Now what began as a partnership to save NTC had now turned into a bitter power struggle with millions on the line. The first person to push for NTC's liquidation in court was Lled from the law firm Smith, working closely with Bouwer van Niekerk. Now Knop filed an urgent application to force Thabo Lled, the director of NTC, to cooperate with the business rescue process. Now the Gauteng High Court ruled in their favor. Lled was ordered to hand over all NTC's business records to the rescue attorneys, including the access details to the company's cryptocurrency wallets. Now that ruling lit the fuse. Not long after, Lled began receiving death threats. The message was simple: drop the case or die. Then, according to records, a woman described as an Afrikaner lady began calling Bouwer as well, warning him that if he didn't walk away from this case, he wouldn't live to see the end of the week. Now Lled was shaken, intimidated, and he stepped back from the case. But Bouwer was different. He refused to be scared off. Determined, he pressed on, vowing to see the business rescue process through as the court had ordered. Meanwhile, the pressure was building outside the courtroom. With all the legal battles dragging on, the customers were not getting their usual payouts. Now nearly 2,000 angry customers were demanding their money. Now according to reports, the heat was now on Thabo Lled. But instead of taking the blame, NTC pointed fingers at Bouwer. Now customers were told that his litigation was blocking the payments and that he stood to profit heavily from the business rescue process. Now what they were not told was the full story, that it was Bouwer who saved NTC by stopping the NPA from shutting it down. Before the week was over, 4 clients showed up at the Smith offices in Saxonwald, Johannesburg, seeking legal advice from Bouwer. 2 were taken into the boardroom for a meeting. Then after a short while, gunshots rang out. The so-called clients got out running, and Bouwer was hit in the dome at close range. He was taken out instantly. The shooters fled with the white GWM car. Bouwer's murder sent shockwaves through the legal community and the nation, especially coming not long after the double murder of liquidator and auditor Clute Moray and his son Thomas Moray. Now rumors were going around that it had been cheaper for NTC to hire a headman than to pay lawyers to deal with Bouwer's litigations. Now the suspects were not so obvious, but NTC was top of the list. Now in the aftermath, the media was hunting for Thabo Lled, the director. Now he said he feared for his own life as well. Now according to him, this is what he said: "This is a very dangerous situation. I've received countless threats, 600 messages, calls and emails in one day from angry investors. At least 60% were threatening, and everything is completely messed up. I don't know what to do, and I don't know what the future holds beyond that meeting. For now, we are hiding in safe locations." So basically, according to NTC, they were also surprised at what happened to Bouwer. Now the question is, who wanted Bouwer and Lled dead? Some investors in Eswatini say they were drawn into NTC through informal WhatsApp groups, all promising guaranteed crypto returns. Now, many fear that their money may be gone for good. Now, adding to the danger, The FSCA has warned that scammers were posing as officials, contacting NTC victims with fake offers to recover lost funds for a fee. Now, NTC Global Trade Fund is being liquidated after a long legal battle. The court ruled in favor of the creditors and set 6 November 2025 as the deadline for interested parties to show cause why the liquidation should not be made final. You see, NTC thought after Bouwer helped save them from liquidation, they were now good to go, and they wanted to cut corners by getting rid of Bouwer. But they ended up losing everything. Now at this moment, we don't know who killed Bouwer. It's not clear if it was NTC behind it or the clients who wanted their money to be released back to them.